So here comes the haters. They're not trying to hate. They just don't agree with the leadership. They think that they can lead better than Moses, the one that was chosen to leave everything that he had to come and help these people, including his family line. And they have an attitude against him. They have aught against him. Mainly because they had to start over. If you're following in Numbers 13 and 14, you'll know that they made a conscious choice not to go into the land. And then after they got a revelation of what they did, they said, well, we're going to go in. And then Moses said, nah, that won't be good for you. And they decided they were going to try anyway. And they lost against two powerful tribes because they blew the timing. How often do we get people who blame us for blowing their timing? Well, I get it all. I've gotten it often throughout the years. I get people that will blame me for their failures after asking me for advice. I've been doing this for 20 plus years as a business consultant. And I hate to say that it happens quite often. It happens quite often, and so far, I will say, very few people catch on that they allow fear to drive their purpose. Fear. Because most people want to hold on to what they have, Egypt, and go to Canaan, when there is a dying off process. The whole purpose of relearning new processes, in this case the hand of Moses, in the New Testament called the kingdom of God. And I'm trying to use the New Testament, Old Testament language to get you used to the idea that the New Testament stuff came from the Old Testament, you know. You know, in a lot of cases, Christians think that the Bible started with the New Testament. There was no Bible in the New Testament. The Bible started in the 1600s. There were scrolls. There was the Torah. We get timing off. And then, you know, our perspective is off. And we're not paying attention to how things actually operate and work according to the Spirit of truth. And so we adopt some of the world system, and we justify our behavior in doing so. Not necessary. We can live based upon the kingdom of God system, which is Moses is trying to explain to them. You don't have to bring Egypt with you. Your mindset, your Egyptian mindset to go into Canaan, you got to stop. This is not how it works. This is the battle that he's fighting. Is the kingdom is getting these people to take on the hand of Moses mindset. So these people, his own tribe, the tribe of Levi, leading 250 princes of the 12 tribes, are telling him that we don't need the hand of Moses. We got this. How is that possible? When God is speaking directly through Moses. So there's kind of a rebellion taking place. Because they really don't understand. They don't get it. So now they're going to blame Moses for not making it into Canaan. Follow with me. And Moses is trying to save their life, by the way. Because keep in mind, this is still an old man who gave up everything to help them get to another place out of bondage, out of slavery. And it's not about the place they're showing up. It's about the people that they become on the way there. It's getting people prepared to fight the actual battle of taking the land. You have to have the right mindset. Numbers 16, verse 8. And Moses said unto Korah, Hear, I pray you, sons of Levi, a small thing unto you, that God of Israel hath separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to him himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them. Is that a small thing to you? That you have the role that you're playing now? Verse 10, And he hath brought thee near, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee, and seek ye the priesthood also? In other words, you want to do what I'm doing too? For which thou and all thy company gathered together against the Lord. So if you're coming against me, you're coming against the hand of Moses. You're coming against the Lord, because that's who gave me the authority. That's who I represent. And what Aaron, that ye murmur against him? And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, which says, We will not come up. Is it a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of the land that flows with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness? So now they're saying Egypt was a land that was flowing with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, except that thou makest thyself altogether a prince over us. So they're mocking Moses and calling him a prince over the princes. So you think you're a prince over the princes. Moreover, he's the high priest. Really. He's the one representing. Bad attitude, as some people would say, but in reality, what I call it a wrong attitude. You have the wrong attitude. When you have the wrong attitude and you look at things the wrong way, you'll see it differently than it should be seen. Because you have the wrong attitude. Your attitude is, I know this guy. He's a pilot, and so he has to have the right attitude and altitude to get there on time. We miss that sometimes. Verse 14, Moreover, there has not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey. So they're blaming it on Moses. I'm going to read this pretty quickly because I want you to get the point, which is all the way at the end of this chapter, I think. No, we won't read that part, but we'll get into this. Verse 15, And Moses was very, very wroth, and said unto the Lord, so in other words, he said, Respect not thou their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said unto Korah, Be thou and all thy company before the Lord, thou and they and Aaron tomorrow. And take every man his censer and put his... So he's going to repeat it back to him. Because he's like, listen, we'll take care of this tomorrow. I want you to think about this. And take every man his censer and put incense in them, and bring ye before the Lord every man his censer, 250 censers. Thou also, Aaron, each his censer, and Aaron his censer. And they took every man his censer and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered, he's a Levi. He's like, all right, I'll play this game. He gathered all the congregation against them unto the door of the tabernacle, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the congregation. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves now, stand back. Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them. Check Moses out. And they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be wroth with all the congregation? And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, all right, speak unto the congregation, saying, get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. Children of Israel, the princes, the smart ones, the haters, they don't mean any harm. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Levites on every side, and Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives and their sons and their little children. And Moses said, hereby ye know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works. And I'm going to shorten it a little bit, because we're going to jump up, because I don't want it to take too long. He says, listen, if something common happens to you, it wasn't me. It wasn't God. But if something uncommon happens and you die, that's God letting you know you messing with the wrong person. Now this isn't to be evil or wicked but here's the problem, and I'm hoping that you get this. This is a huge lesson. My grandchildren, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, and whomever else this helps, God bless you. Thank you for taking this journey. But this is an important lesson to learn in business, in your family, socially, politically. You cannot excel with haters. You have to give haters the opportunity to show their selves. It's like the shedding of dead cells. You're getting rid of that which kept you from making it into your promised land. They are not to be feared when they are revealed. Give them the floor. Allow God to remove them from your life. Stop trying to hold on to people you think you need. If they're hating on you, they will keep you losing. The person to depend upon is God Himself. But people will come into your life and tell you all about you. Be careful. As a business consultant, right now I only have one client, one real client. And I leave my tongue off this particular person because that person is the visionary of what God has shown that person. Not my job to go in and start telling that person how to, but in my consultation, I do the best I can to give everything I possibly can without coming in and making myself anything other than an assistant. Because I haven't been given authority to be anything else. Can I be something else? Sure. But when my authority is challenged and I'm not backed, it makes me go even further back and yield even more. Hear me on this, because you have to remain blameless in the eyes of the Creator of whatever it is. This is God's way. If you welcome God into the house, He will take over the whole house. If you welcome God into the corner, He will take over the corner. It is not your job as a leader to defend yourself from someone who is not qualified to take over your house. That's another perspective. But if you welcome God into your home and you do not live, work according to God's principles, if you decide that, because it's your home, if you decide that you want to live by a particular standard, then that shall be. And no one, whether right or wrong, has the right to walk into your home, your business, your ministry, your anything, and tell you, just tell you how it should be. I can explain to you my testimony or some other ways of considering it, but it's still your choice. These people are just telling Moses how it's going to be. And Moses is like, all right, so let's see how that works out. So every man has gathered their censer. Now they're following him. And then Moses says to them in verse 28 of Numbers 16, verse 28, dealing with his haters. They followed him and over to the tents. Now keep in mind, you remember, the tabernacle of the congregation is right in the middle. Remember that? And then around the tabernacle of the congregation are the Levitical priests and the Levitical workers, the 22,000. Remember them? And on the outskirts of that are the tents of the tribes. There's 3 tribes above, 3 tribes below, 3 tribes to the east, 3 tribes to the west. So he's at the tents of the Levites. And he says this in verse 28. And Moses says, hereby you shall know that the Lord hath sent me to do all these works, for not of mine own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or they be visited after the visitation of all men, the Lord hath not sent me. In other words, if something happens to them and it's just, it makes sense, okay, that wasn't me. But in verse 30, if the Lord makes a new thing and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up, like what happened with the golden calf thing. I told you about in 2 previous videos. And swallow them up with all that upon them, and they go down quickly into the pit. And then ye shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, verse 31, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground cleaved asunder that under them. I remember talking to last week, and I've done this before, and because, just to demonstrate the power of God. It was raining, and then someone said, well, I want the rain to stop, but they made a condition to it. I said, all right. So then, I prayed the condition, and then they said, well, thanks a lot, Paul. It's still raining. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what you wanted. I thought you want the clouds to move. Well, no, I want the clouds to move north. So I said, all right. So I prayed the clouds move north. The clouds moved north. The rain stopped all day. And I looked, and when the rain stopped, I came out because, out of the office because, she didn't acknowledge God. She didn't thank God because she didn't, she wanted to put things. And I looked at it, I was like, what? Where's the? And I wasn't being sarcastic. Why didn't you thank him? You just flat forgot. See, because we think the moves of God are coincidences. So Moses set it up to where you couldn't ignore it. If I'm in control, I should be able to call those things that be not as though they were in this circumstance and bring it to pass based upon the authority that I have. I'm talking about in your family, in your business, in your ministry, socially, politically. You should be able to make it happen. You should have the authority to bring what God shows you, because between the agreement between you and God in that particular situation. I remember raising my daughter, and I would want a certain thing to happen, and it wouldn't happen. I knew then I had no authority. I her mom and we didn't, so I did the best I could, but I wasn't walking in full authority. In fact, her aunts and uncles had more authority in the relationship in some cases than I had in my own daughter's life when she was younger. And the result of it was so. Now my daughter's older. We have a greater relationship now. But now, that authority has been switched over to her husband because they're doing their own thing. If you don't understand how the kingdom principles operate, then you will try to violate them and you will be sent into a pit trying to do something that's outside of your authority. Pay attention to me, please. Those who are interested in hearing it from my perspective. What Moses is saying to these people is, this is not my authority, this is God's authority. If you want the authority, cool. But God's got to give it to you. But if God comes and takes these three men, and I want all of you guys to see it, all of you princes that are following behind these three fools, I want y'all to see this. Now, step back. All right. So, if you lose your life in a common way, in other words, if you fail, what most people call fail, because when you fail when you have no opportunity to change direction. Anything else is called experience. So if they fail, they weren't supposed to be doing this. Now, I'm asking you all to step back and pay attention. Verse 30, he says, but if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up, earthquake, with all that, verse 31, and it came to pass. Verse 32, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them. Verse 33, and they and all that to them went down alive into the pit. Verse 34, and all Israel round about them fled at the cry of them. Verse 35, and there came out a fire from the Lord. Verse 36, and the Lord spake unto Moses. The son of Aaron the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning, and scatter thou the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. And the censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates, a covering of the altar, for they offered them before the Lord, therefore they are hallowed. And they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel. From this standpoint, the children of Israel were not allowed censers. Verse 39, Eliezer The priests took the brazen censers wherewith that they were burnt, had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar. You're not qualified. Verse 41, and we'll end here, but I want you to see what happens after, because it's not just that happens, right? And again, we're talking about whether it's in the family, business, socially, politically, or whatever. This is not for you to stop. This is for you to be aware. This is not for you to be scared of. This is for you to allow the haters to reveal themselves. Allow God to fight your battles. That's what it means. You know, in the New Testament, people say, let God fight your battle. This is what it means. I'm breaking it down. In other words, don't be scared of those who come against you. Say, all right, let's see what happens. Let's find out if what you're saying is true. And let's do it publicly. Please hear what I'm saying. I hope you hear the heart behind this as well. This is not a sarcastic thing. This is necessary for people to win. You can't be scared to win. You're scared if you're scared of conflict. There is conflict in winning. And you have to be willing to address it with confidence. Verse 41. Numbers 16:41. But on the morrow, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, saying, Ye have killed the people of the Lord. And it came to pass, when the congregation was gathered against Moses and Aaron, that they looked toward the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. And Moses and Aaron, verse 43, came before the tabernacle of the congregation, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Get you from amongst this congregation, and watch what Moses does. Get you from, verse 45, I may consume them as in a moment, and they fell upon their faces. And Moses said unto Aaron, Take a censer and put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly upon the congregation, and make an atonement for them. For there is wrath gone out from the Lord, and the plague is begun. If you don't deal and if you're not willing to deal with those who are speaking against you in your leadership, by allowing them to be themselves, speak against you, so that God can make atonement for those who are interested in the atonement. But for those who continue to speak against you, bring conflict, eventually they got to be dealt with. Because these are the people that had to be revealed, that caused division during the first trek to the land of promise. You got to get rid of them. And listen, you don't have to. I take that back. You don't have to. But what you have will keep you in a wilderness situation. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. We're on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. Thank you for taking the journey with us. If this is a blessing to you, I ask that you please share this with other people on whatever platform you hear this or see this. If it's a blessing to you, it'll be a blessing to someone else. And appreciate you all just going on this journey. We're on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. I do not know how long it's going to take. That's where we're going. Thank you for joining me on this Bible study, and thank you for joining us in this journey.